Most people think private armies only exist in movies, dictatorships, and ancient empires. But the modern world quietly created a new version of private military power. A version hidden behind billionaires, corporations, and elite security systems globally. Because extreme wealth eventually stops trusting ordinary protection completely. Normal people trust governments, police, and public systems for safety emotionally. The ultra-rich slowly begin building private systems beyond public control. And eventually security stops meaning bodyguards standing beside luxury cars publicly. It becomes private infrastructure designed to protect power itself. That transformation quietly created one of the darkest luxury industries on Earth. The rise of modern private armies. At level 1, private armies begin as elite personal protection systems privately. This level belongs to celebrities, millionaires, and wealthy entrepreneurs. Bodyguards, armored SUVs, surveillance systems, and private drivers appear everywhere. The goal is protection from attention and public unpredictability, because modern fame and wealth created constant visibility psychologically and socially. And visibility slowly begins feeling emotionally dangerous. The richer people become, the more strangers enter their lives unexpectedly publicly. Fans, stalkers, criminals, and opportunists constantly appear. So security slowly transforms from convenience into emotional necessity completely. The wealthy begin building private walls around everyday life. At level 2, security becomes militarized instead of protective emotionally and visually. This is where former soldiers and elite operatives enter billionaire culture. Ex-special forces teams, tactical convoys, armored compounds, and advanced surveillance emerge. The wealthy no longer want safety alone. They want visible control over dangerous environments psychologically and physically, because modern wealth increasingly fears unpredictability itself. That's why wealthy elites became obsessed with armored movement systems globally. Bulletproof vehicles and tactical protection become status symbols. At level 3, corporations quietly enter the private army world globally and politically. This is where private military companies become extremely powerful. Massive corporations begin hiring former military personnel privately worldwide. Oil companies, tech giants, and global industries build security divisions, so private military contractors slowly replace government presence in some regions entirely, especially around valuable infrastructure and strategic industries. The line between corporation and military force slowly begins disappearing publicly, and most ordinary people never notice it happening. At level 4, billionaires begin building private compounds protected like military bases privately. Fear fully enters elite psychology at this level, so hidden estates evolve into fortified territories with armed security infrastructure completely. Private intelligence systems and tactical response teams appear, because extreme wealth creates extreme awareness about social instability. Riots, political unrest, and global tension dominate thinking. That's why elite compounds increasingly resemble miniature private nations globally. Everything needed for protection exists inside the system. At level 5, private armies become invisible intelligence networks instead of visible guards. This is where surveillance and information become the real weapons. Cybersecurity teams, digital surveillance, and former spies appear privately. Because modern warfare increasingly happens through information instead of bullets, and information became one of the most valuable forms of power globally. Who controls information slowly controls perception itself. At level 6, private armies begin resembling independent military systems entirely globally. This is where oligarchs and political elites appear. In unstable regions, private armies become visible symbols of power publicly and politically. Strength must remain physically visible constantly, and eventually power stops relying on public institutions psychologically anymore completely. It builds private alternatives instead. At level 7, private armies stop functioning like security systems entirely anymore. They become private state power, hidden inside modern civilization. The ultra-rich are not preparing to join society. They are preparing to operate separately from society, if necessary, privately instead. They represent fear of vulnerability and loss of control completely. And powerful people fear vulnerability more than almost anything. a hidden world of armored compounds, private intelligence, and invisible military power, far away from ordinary people and ordinary public reality.